Well, welcome to Lesson 7, and I hope with Lesson 6, I believe you had a little quiz, and if you haven't gotten the feedback yet for that quiz, send me an email at donnie@quickietech.com. Again, my contact information is at the bottom left of the slides, but I hope you were able to answer those questions, such as what are the terms of the steps of the 21st century skills technology staircase? What are the letters on the home row? How do you properly cite information that's gathered from the internet? And what are the 8 main categories of comprehension difficulties that you'll find with English language learners? So you hopefully grasp all that. If there was anything of that quiz that you don't get, it's important at this stage of the course that you go ahead and send me an email. And again, I'm accessible, and you can even call me. You can set up a Skype session with me, and if you want me to walk through some things with you, just let me know. Again, as a professional development provider, I am required to have a level of interaction with you throughout this course to ensure you're on track in gaining a proficiency with regard to helping our students gain 21st century technology skills for college and workplace readiness so that they can be competitively global. They can be global competitively. And so evaluating, really at this point, I'd like to say, once you've instilled the previous steps of keyboarding, gathering, comprehending, it's really at the point of evaluating where you're going to start to see something exciting happen. Because once students begin to evaluate not only the information that they find on the internet, but the other work of their fellow students, a whole new level of thought processes start to kick into gear. Because a student, when they begin to realize that their opinion counts and that they don't have to sit passively and just receive information without thinking about it and challenging it, then they themselves start to get engaged with the information. Of course, we're not trying to produce people who argue with their teachers or argue with excellent authors, but they should learn how to evaluate things. That is, how to say, you know what, this is good information because of this, and this is not good information because of this. So being able to produce convincing arguments is going to be at the heart of what we're going to see in this matter of evaluating, synthesizing, and summarizing. So the point of this particular lesson is primarily focused on helping our students evaluate the information they gather, realizing that not everything that pops up on Google is true, is accurate, is credible. They need to challenge it. They should look for secondary resources. If they find something and this article says this on CNN, they should go to the Wall Street Journal and see if they can find the same article and compare the two articles. If something seems overly biased in one newspaper, look at another newspaper. President Lyndon B. Johnson, he was famous for doing this. When he read items in the morning with regard to events that took place in the world, he read several newspapers so that he could get a perspective of what different people were saying and then assess the credibility of the information before he actually related it to others. So in this lesson, again, what we want to do is we want to evaluate information and help our students learn to evaluate the information they gather. This word is used in the Common Core standards. That's why we're listing it here verbatim. So the objective is to learn how to teach students to be selective in material they gather in order to conduct original research, to answer questions, or solve problems. So step 1, you're going to watch in the reading portion a video on how to teach students to evaluate web resources. Then look at the PowerPoint to see how this compares to evaluating written material. Okay, we have a PowerPoint in front of us. You're looking at it right now. Read a study guide for evaluating websites. And then step 3, practice by looking at 2 websites and list the elements that help determine if they are good and bad. So that's basically the lesson plan for evaluating. So I'm not going to go ahead and inundate you with this. You can actually either skip this and go straight to the reading session. You'll see some links, or you can pause this video and take a look at these links here, and then when you go to the reading section you can just go ahead and bypass the links. But basically, watch the video, read a study guide, and then review 2 helpful websites. But I'm going to conclude with 3 ways to evaluate the credibility of a website. Just 3 simple ways. I hope you would memorize these, and you could just tell your students these. Number 1 is look for the author and see if the author has credentials. Now, there's a website that's very common for getting good information, and that's Wikipedia.com. And so sometimes you don't find the author there. Well, that's a concern. It is a concern. It's better to find the author. But if you can't find the author, it's good if you pull stuff from Wikipedia, maybe just do another search in Google and just make sure that information is accurate or referenced. If it's not, then go ahead and reference Wikipedia, and scholars should know that the information there, it's being updated by a team of people, but sometimes it's not always accurate. Just caveat that. Nevertheless, Wikipedia is great. It's like an online encyclopedia. Number 2 is the article bias. So when you read something and it feels really biased, let's say the topic is on African Americans in the workplace. There's a little bit of a racial intonation there, and as you begin to read it, you begin to realize it's saying a lot of things that are either in favor of a particular statistic about African Americans or not in favor. But you can tell that they're not just quoting the numbers, they're pushing a kind of a bias. Well, it's better, if you're going to reference that article, to say this article has a very particular bias. Teach your students to talk that way. In other words, I have this particular article. The article has a bias. I'm not quite sure how valid it is. So I looked at another article, and there's a little bit of a balance here. Basically, I think we need to be balanced with regard to whatever we present. Teacher, what do you think? Okay, this type of language of evaluating helps our students do real research. Then, secondly, is the article accurate? So students need to find out if something is accurate. You know what? Libraries are good. And also, professionals are also helpful. And so students should learn they can ask experts like yourself on whether something is accurate. So help your students, as they're doing research, know that they can always come to you to do a double check on something is accurate. You're much more professional. You have a much stronger sense of accuracy of information, and you can guide the student to cross-check things. So particularly you math teachers, it may be that a student comes with a particular way of doing a problem and you're noticing that they're not getting the problems right. Well, they may say, well, teacher, you told me to go to the internet and study this. Well, you may have to help them to understand, if you are pulling things from the internet and it's not helping you get accurate information, then you should be warned. I would like to encourage all of you students, I'm talking as a teacher here, to check with one another, check with your parents, and particularly I'd like you to check with me with regard to information that's accurate. I'm the professional here, and I have the authoritative source of information and am an educator with regard to what levels of proficiency you need in topics that are very important. And so as you're doing your research, I need you to evaluate things, and part of that evaluation process is you can check with me to ensure the accuracy of information. Okay, so this is important. Great, that's the end of this lesson.